Driving on the Mississippi Gulf Coast is unlike anything you've ever seen before. We'll show you some of these dangerous driving conditions and also point out a few that exist here on Keesler. We'll cover local traffic laws and registration requirements. We'll also examine some unique traffic hazards that are found on our most heavily traveled roads. And before we finish, we'll bring you up to date on everything you need to know if you plan to ride a motorcycle, a bicycle, or even rollerblade. First, let's take a look at the traffic laws and regulations for Keesler and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. There are some Air Force directives you must comply with while driving on base. Break any of these laws or directives, and things will get up close and personal pretty quick. On base, traffic violations will be placed on drivers' records and points will be assessed. Drivers who get 3 non-moving violations in a 6-month period will have base driving privileges suspended for 30 days. There's an additional 30 days for each non-moving violation after that. In Mississippi and on Keesler, you are considered under the influence of alcohol if your blood alcohol content is 0.08 or higher. Drunk driving will cost you big time if convicted on or off base. You'll lose your driving privileges for at least a year. It could also cost you your Air Force career. This is in addition to any civil court punishment, which could be a fine, suspension of your driver's license, and a jail term of 24 hours. A second conviction doubles these penalties. Remember this: 3 DUIs in Mississippi is a felony. At least 1/2 of our fatal accidents involve drunk drivers. So, if you've had a few too many and you feel that your driving skills might be impaired, call Airmen Against Drunk Driving. They'll arrange a ride home, no questions asked. In fact, it's considered a sign of maturity when someone does this. And remember, friends don't let friends drive drunk either. As technology increases, so does the risk of becoming distracted while at the wheel. Here on Keesler, it is illegal to use handheld electronic devices for any reason while driving. This means no talking or texting behind the wheel. If you must use a mobile electronic device for any reason when in your car, be sure to park your car in an approved parking area before operating your device. Right about now, you're probably saying to yourself, "I've heard all this stuff before." Maybe so, and you'll keep hearing it for as long as you wear that uniform, because the facts are as cold and as hard as a tombstone. Your chance of being killed or seriously injured while driving is 1 in 50. 1 in 50. Every year, more than 150 Air Force personnel are killed in automobile accidents. About 3,000 others are seriously injured. The experts on traffic safety all agree one thing: if all those killed had been wearing seatbelts, at least 1/2 of them might be alive today. That's why here on Keesler we are serious about seatbelts. In fact, Air Force instructions require wearing of seatbelts while operating or riding in motor vehicles on or off base. Not wearing your seatbelt could result in losing your base driving privileges. Security forces make periodic checks for seatbelt use. So buckle up for safety and remember the speed limit on Keesler Air Force Base is 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. To drive on base, you'll need a valid driver's license, proof of insurance, and a valid license plate from any state. If you need a driver's license, you can get one from any Mississippi licensing office. Keesler is a small base located right in the center of Biloxi. You might be surprised how congested the traffic is, especially during the morning, noon, and evening rush hours. Marching troop formations can be a problem during class shift changes. You may pass these formations at 10 miles per hour when so signaled. Another place to be especially careful is at crosswalks. Drivers must always yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk or at an intersection. When a driver has yielded to a pedestrian, vehicles approaching from the front or the rear may not pass the stopped vehicle. Drivers should also watch out for joggers, cyclists, rollerbladers, and skateboarders at all times. Keesler has a lot of them. Here's another tip. Mississippi law allows a right turn on red unless otherwise posted. However, you must come to a complete stop before making your turn. Keesler's small size means there's a short supply of parking spaces. Do not park in restricted areas. The security forces write a lot of parking tickets. Remember these guidelines: don't park on white lines, and the parking lot speed limit is 5 miles per hour. The flight line covers nearly all of the west side of the base. The flight line area is not fenced, though there is a temptation to cut through this area. Don't try it. It's not only dangerous, it's illegal. Non-military vehicles are not permitted on the ramp or taxiways without permission from base operations. If your duty requires driving in these areas, remember to use extreme caution. Yield to taxiing aircraft and do not exceed 15 miles per hour. Also, you may not enter the taxiways or drive on the runways unless you have a radio contact with the Keesler Tower and are under their positive control. A word about accidents and emergency vehicles. Pull off to the side of the road for all emergency vehicles using their lights and sirens. Then be very careful pulling back into traffic after they've passed. These type of vehicles usually travel in groups, so check in both directions before re-entering traffic. If you're involved in an accident on base, notify security forces. Off base, notify the local police department as soon as possible, especially if the accident involves death, injury, or property damage. That's a brief look at traffic laws and registration requirements on Keesler. Remember, driving on base is a privilege. That can be lost if you violate state laws or on-base instructions. Next, a few driving tips to help you avoid traffic accidents. The National Safety Council reports that most auto accidents occur within 25 miles of home. Our statistics agree. More than 80% of our recent accidents happened within a 25-mile radius of Keesler. So let's take a look at driving on Keesler, the roads, the traffic patterns, and general safety hazards in the area. First, let's look at some of the most heavily traveled streets on Keesler. Larcher Boulevard begins at Gate 3, the entrance to Keesler from Highway 90. It continues north all the way to the medical center. It can be a little tricky at times. However, obey the visual traffic aids and you shouldn't have a problem. Chappie James is another heavily traveled road. It is the most direct route to the flight line and several academic buildings. You must be especially watchful here during the lunch hour because of the sudden increase of pedestrian and vehicle traffic. Watch out for this tree when turning left onto Larcher from Chappie James because it may block your view of oncoming traffic. Here's Hanger Road, which runs parallel to the flight line. Marching formations are common here, especially at lunch and during class shift changes. Vehicle drivers traveling in the same direction as marching formations may not approach closer than 50 feet. Meadows Drive is a 4-lane road that begins at Gate 1 and terminates at Hanger Road. It's the primary east and west street on the base. Cross-street traffic is heavy on Meadows Drive, especially at the Larcher intersection. Be on the lookout for pedestrians crossing at this crosswalk to the BX. This is Fisher Street. It's short but extremely busy. It begins at the medical center and terminates at H Street. There's a lot of traffic on Fisher Street. That's because the Sablick Center, the hospital, Fisher House, Tire House, and dental clinic are all located here. There is a running path that begins on H Street and connects to I-81 running track. Because the running path is parallel to H Street, the speed limit is 15 miles per hour. When running in hours of darkness, it is imperative that you wear reflective material for your safety. Be on the lookout for runners at this intersection of H Street and First Street. This is where runners cross to continue the I-81 running track. Ploesti Drive is the closest thing we have to a perimeter road. There are several sharp curves on Ploesti. This one, near the north end of the runway, is dangerous. The posted speed limit is 15 miles per hour. The other major hazard on Ploesti is from low-flying aircraft. These lights will warn you of aircraft operations in the area. A warning horn also sounds when you encounter these signals. Come to a complete stop until the light goes out. Ploesti Drive passes Gate 7, which exits the base to the west and onto Pass Road. If you select a proper lane before reaching your intersection and follow the traffic control signs, you shouldn't have any problem. Now let's take a look at some of the off-base driving hazards. At the beginning of this program, we stated that driving on the Mississippi Gulf Coast would be like nothing you've ever experienced before. This is a major tourist area. It has a 26-mile-long sand beach. Keesler and Biloxi are located on a narrow peninsula of land. A lot of people and vehicles crowded into a small space with limited number of ways into and out of the area. The result? This is traffic on Pass Road at quitting time. Pass Road is a major thoroughfare for both Biloxi and Gulfport. There are controlled intersections at nearly every stop. Shops, stores, and other businesses line both sides of the road. Highway 90, just south of Pass Road, is one of the most dangerous stretches of road in the area. One reason for this danger is very heavy volumes of tourists and local traffic. Tourists staying in the local motels cross the highway to get to the beach, and cross they do, often with little regard for oncoming traffic. Another hazard is the occasional narrow median. Traffic turning left or making U-turns often block both sides of the highway. Be careful when driving over sand on Highway 90. If you drive too fast over it, the sand may cause you to lose control of your vehicle. Here's another major east-west connector, Interstate 10, which serves the entire coastal region. Interstate 110 provides access to Keesler and Biloxi. A particular hazard is in the sharp curve at Highway 90 exit in Biloxi. Follow the speed limit signs when approaching this curve, especially during inclement weather. 10 miles per hour means 10 miles per hour. Other hazards of this highway are the on-ramps from Keesler at certain times of the day. Bridges along the Gulf Coast present another challenge to the safety-conscious driver. For instance, crosswinds are quite common and may affect vehicle control. Drawbridges present a different hazard. Most drawbridges have graded metal surface that can cause problems for small tires on a motorcycle. The best way to handle this is to slow down and maintain a straight course. This is the Promenade Shopping Center. It is located just north of Interstate 10. Exercise extra caution when entering the shopping center from the northbound entrance on I-110. Vehicles merging onto I-110 from Interstate 10 can pose as hazards to vehicles trying to take the exit to the shopping center. At peak times, this cross traffic can be very dangerous. So again, exercise extra caution. Railroad crossings are common throughout this part of the country. At some crossings, you'll be warned of approaching trains by flashing lights, bells, and a crossing gate. At others, only a sign will be used. Be very careful at these crossings. This area has had a lot of vehicle-train accidents. The old adage, "Stop, look, and listen," should be your watchword. At gated crossings, stop as soon as the light begins to flash. Don't try to beat the train. It's bigger and faster than you. Remain stopped until the barrier is raised and the lights stop flashing. Never drive around the lowered gates. It is dangerous and it is illegal. Expect a lot of heavy rain in this area at times. Drainage is very poor in some areas, which results in standing water in the roads and highways. Driving at high speed through a puddle can cause loss of control from the hydroplaning effect. During the spring and winter, heavy dense fog is common, especially along the beach and along the interstate. Keep your headlights on low beam and don't tailgate. Always allow yourself plenty of room for sudden stops ahead of you. Stay alert to the traffic, the weather, other drivers, and road conditions. Common sense should be the rule whether you drive in New York City or here on the coast. One more section on motorcycle and bicycle safety. Motorcycle, moped, and bicycle riders will be the first to agree that their vehicles are unique forms of transportation. On two wheels, you can really experience the freedom of the road, the open enjoyment of nature, and the certainty of losing every argument with any moving or stationary object in your path. To drive a motorcycle or a moped on base, you must complete a training course. This consists of classroom work and hands-on motorcycle safety training. This course must be completed even if you do not plan to drive your motorcycle on base. Upon completion, you'll be given a motorcycle safety foundation card or motorcycle registration card. This form must be carried anytime you operate a motorcycle or moped, just like a driver's license. Remember, both you and a passenger must wear an approved helmet with a full face shield or impact-resistant goggles. As a minimum, you must wear over-the-ankle shoes or boots, long sleeves, and full-finger gloves. It is recommended that you wear bright colors with reflective properties for your safety. Your bike must have 2 rear-view mirrors and a headlight turned on to low beam when you ride. You may not loan your motorcycle to anyone who has not completed the required training, whether on or off base. Rules for bicyclists are similar. State law requires reflectors or headlights if you operate at night. Bicyclists, joggers, rollerbladers, skateboarders, and motorists may not wear headphones. Bicyclists, rollerbladers, and skateboarders must wear approved head protection. They must keep to the right of traffic and ride, roll, or jog in single file. Bicyclists, rollerbladers, and skateboarders are not allowed on Ploesti Drive from J Street to Falcon Street. Here they must use the I-81 track. If you need to move off the I-81 track, make sure you do not go past the warning signs near the flight line. This will result in a controlled movement area violation. On heavily traveled roads, walk your bike across. Now a last note for your personal safety. The Mississippi Gulf Coast offers a lot of activities for you to do. If any of these can be classified as high-risk activity, you will need to fill out a current high-risk activities form and receive a high-risk activities briefing. This will ensure that your supervisor and commander will be invested in your safety as much as you are. That's it! We're done! We've covered traffic laws and registration requirements, gave you a few tips to help you drive safer on Keesler and the Gulf Coast. We discussed your two-wheeler responsibilities, and we covered what you need to do if you participate in high-risk activities. We can sum up the whole briefing in a few well-chosen words. Drive safely, drive defensively, and you'll live to drive tomorrow.